I am recording this audio while driving at 140 kilometers per hour down the A1 highway, crossing the border from Switzerland into France under a torrential rain that barely lets me see the road. In the passenger seat next to me, I have a black leather briefcase with the discreet logo of my former company and a military-grade encrypted hard drive that, at this exact moment, is worth my life. Less than 3 hours ago, I was sitting in a silent meeting room made of glass and steel on the top floor of a building in Zurich, presenting the final risk report on the renewal of the Vatican's insurance policy. I played the audio from Cell 7 to the entire executive board. I expected to see shock, moral indignation, or fear in their eyes. What I received was a cold, calculated, and bureaucratic silence, followed by a letter of termination for just cause, digitally signed before I had even finished my presentation. They did not care one bit that the Pope almost died in the Tower. Sacred underground. They only cared about the liability clause and the data leak. They knew. The insurance company always knew that the Vatican maintains an undeclared, high-risk biological asset on its balance sheets. What you are about to hear regarding Cell 7 is not an internet forum urban legend. It is the technical and forensic description of a near-extinction level disaster. The containment glass cracked, and the order shouted over the radio to not look was not religious or mystical. It was an extreme biosecurity procedure. If you look at the thing they keep down there, your brain does not process the image as visual information. It collapses. It shuts down. I am the auditor who calculated the financial cost of the end of the world, and they just rescinded my contract to protect the shareholders' quarterly profit. For you to understand the technical gravity of what I found, you need to know exactly who I am and how I operate. I am not a priest, I am not a soldier, and I am not an industrial spy. I am a senior specialist in catastrophic loss adjustment and asset risk audit. I work for one of the 3 largest reinsurers in Europe, those gigantic and invisible companies that insure the insurance companies themselves. When unstable governments or millennia-old institutions fear that an earthquake, a nuclear war, a pandemic, or an act of God will destroy their accumulated treasures, they call me to put a price on it. My job is to turn sacred relics, recovered Nazi gold, and state secrets into cold numbers on a complex Excel spreadsheet. I evaluate the statistical probability of total destruction. In October 2023, I was sent to Rome with a reduced elite team to update the physical inventory of the Vatican's underground deposits. The Church was renegotiating its global liability insurance and needed to prove documentarily that its security systems were infallible to get a discount on the annual premium, which reaches into the billions of euros. I am not a tourist dazzled by faith or art. I am paid to see structural flaws where others see miracles. For 10 days, I walked through the climate-controlled, labyrinthine, and oppressive corridors beneath St. Peter's Basilica and the secret archives, always accompanied by an armed escort from the Vatican Gendarmerie and carrying a tablet connected via satellite to my company's server. My routine was to check fire suppression valves, high-sensitivity seismic motion sensors, and the thickness of reinforced concrete walls. I was there to ensure that if everything caught fire, the insurer wouldn't go bankrupt. I am paid to be skeptical, boring, and observant, and it was exactly this paranoid attention to contractual details that made me notice the statistical discrepancy in the energy consumption of Sector C4. There was a massive voltage deviation, enough to power a small industrial town, being diverted to an armored freight elevator that, according to the official engineering blueprints they gave me, should not exist or should have been deactivated and sealed since 1950. On October 30th, I was finishing the technical inspection on level -4, a restricted and dusty area where they keep uncatalogued state gifts and pagan statues. The corridor was silent except for the constant and irritating hum of forced ventilation. Suddenly, the security protocol changed drastically. Red rotating lights were activated on the ceiling along the entire tunnel, but without any audible alarm, which indicates a covert operation. My 2 gendarmerie escorts went rigid, pulled me with brute force by the arm, and pushed me against the cold stone wall, ordering me to lower my head and make no sudden movements. Pope protocol. one of them whispered with a trembling voice, sweating under his cap. But that made no logical sense. The standard papal protocol involves trumpets, advance warnings and ceremony, and the Pope never descends to the dirty, mouldy. Cargo depots. The door of the sector's main elevator opened with a hydraulic hiss. It was not a liturgical ceremonial procession. It was a high-level military tactical operation. Pope Francis was in the center, without official vestments, wearing a simple white cassock, stained and looking exhausted like a man carrying a physical weight. He was surrounded by the commander of the Swiss Guard, armed with a short automatic rifle that never appears in tourist photos, and 3 men in civilian suits, carrying cases of emergency medical equipment, defibrillators, and lead-lined boxes. They didn't look like they were going to pray. They looked like they were going to disarm a nuclear bomb or contain a viral leak. They marched past us without looking and entered the unlisted service elevator, the one consuming too much energy. The brushed steel door closed, but the external control panel remained active due to a maintenance error or system failure. I saw the floor indicator descend numbers that did not exist on my official map, -5, -6, -7. The digital display flashed the word custody sector. I kept my digital dictaphone on continuous recording mode, pressed against the inside pocket of my suit jacket. And then the unthinkable happened. The elevator's intercom system, likely left open by the commander for external monitoring, began to leak the internal audio to the loudspeaker in the corridor where I stood. The sound that came out of that old loudspeaker on the stone wall was crisp, echoing in the empty, cold corridor like an electronic ghost. My guards looked at each other, terrified. They knew this was a grave security violation, but they were paralyzed by the hierarchical fear of intervening or turning off the system. The audio captured the entourage's arrival down there in the depths of the Vatican Hill. I heard the sound of heavy hydraulic doors, the type used in nuclear submarines, being unlocked and opened manually. And then a strange, ambient sound invaded the recording. It sounded like the hum of a giant electric hive, mixed with the high-pitched sound of glass vibrating under extreme pressure. The voice of one of the civilian scientists, speaking Italian with a strong German accent, said, "Luminescence levels are unstable, dangerously varying at 40,000 lumens. He is agitated today, Holiness. The skin is pulsing. We recommend full polarization glasses and lead visors now." The Pope's voice responded right after. It was a tired, deep voice, lacking the performative softness he uses in public masses at St. Peter's Square. He said, "I need to see him. I need to know if he still suffers from our presence. Calm him down." It was not the voice of a religious leader speaking to a representation of God. It was the voice of a jailer with pity for his perpetual prisoner, or a doctor visiting a highly dangerous terminal patient. The atmosphere in the corridor where I stood became unbearable. The air seemed heavier, charged with static. I knew I was listening to something classified far above top secret, something that did not appear in any insurance policy in the world, and that could invalidate all contracts. My escorts placed their hands on their weapons, undecided whether they should shoot the loudspeaker to silence it or forcibly remove me from there. They chose not to move, paralyzed by curiosity or terror. I continued recording, sweating cold inside my expensive suit. I needed that. If something happened to the Pope down there, the insurer would need to know the exact causa mortis to avoid paying the multi-billion indemnity. I was just doing my job as a risk auditor. But what happened next was not in any actuarial risk table I have seen in 30 years of my career. The audio captured a sudden and violent crack, which made me jump in place. It was a dry, loud sound, like a .38 caliber revolver shot, but with a prolonged, glassy resonance, like thick ice cracking on a frozen lake. "Crack in the upper right quadrant," screamed the scientist, his voice rising octaves in pure, unfiltered panic. "Primary containment failed. The structural integrity of the glass is at 30% and falling. He is emitting total light." Absolute chaos ensued on the recording. The hive hum increased in volume until it became a sonic screech that distorted the microphone. I heard the commander of the Swiss Guard shout the order that gives this report its title, and that will haunt my nightmares forever. "Holiness, cover your eyes, don't look at the angel. The glass gave way. Everyone, turn your backs immediately. Retreat to the airlock now. Code black. There was the sound of boots running wildly on the metal floor, medical equipment falling to the ground and desperate gasping breathing. The scientist kept shouting technical data in the background, trying to be heard over the noise of the escape. Geometric pattern active. It is a visual attack. Do not look at the light. The color spectrum is shifting to deep ultraviolet. He is attempting contact. The word angel was used repeatedly by the guards on the radio, but the context was one of absolute biological terror, not mystical adoration. They were not afraid of being judged morally by a celestial being. They were afraid of being biologically formatted. Whatever is in Cell 7 attacks through vision. The light it emits carries complex viral information. If you see it, you die. It is a perfect and ancient weapon that they cannot control. At that moment, standing in the level 4 corridor, trembling, I understood the Vatican's true hidden liability. As an auditor, I deal only with probable facts and concrete data, and the fact there was clear. There is a living biological organism in the underground of Rome, possibly recovered from a forbidden archaeological excavation or an unidentified aerial event, which possesses a predatory defense mechanism based on overloading the human optic nerve. The beauty it emits is lethal. It is an evolutionary trap designed to attract and destroy. The recording captured the moment the emergency airlock security door was sealed manually, with the heavy sound of steel locks turning and latching. They were safe, gasping, coughing the ozonized air of the chamber. The Pope whispered a prayer in Latin, trembling, audibly shaken. The guard commander, trying to regain control of the situation, did a roll call of the team over the radio. Team Alpha, check. Dr. Rossi, check. Father Marco, check. And then heavy and lasting silence. Where is Sergeant Luca? Does anyone have a visual on Sergeant Luca? The scientist's response was cold, clinical, and devoid of any humanity or hope. He looked back, Commander. He saw the creature's reflection in the chrome metal door of the elevator. It was an indirect eye contact, a fraction of a second, but it was enough. He is in an irreversible catatonic state. His visual cortex burned all superior. Synapses in milliseconds. He is smiling, Commander. He fell to the floor smiling. He is not coming back. They left a man behind, an elite, trained man who was mentally destroyed just by seeing the creature's reflection in a piece of metal. This is not theology. This is an extinction-level biological threat. If this creature escaped to the surface, it wouldn't need claws, teeth, or poison. It would only need to shine, and the entire population of Rome, and then Italy, would fall dead, with ecstatic smiles on their faces, hypnotized by the visual glory, until the brain shut down the autonomic functions of the heart and lungs. The audio of the recording ended with the order for immediate medical evacuation for the Pope and the rapid concrete injection protocol being prepared for Cell 7 in case the second glass barrier failed. I managed to stop the recording in my pocket and save the encrypted file directly to my company's cloud server in Zurich, using my corporate tablet's 5G connection. Seconds before the guards realized the audio leak, ran to me and confiscated my physical equipment with unnecessary violence. They searched me, threatened me with life imprisonment in the Vatican prisons, and expelled me from the Holy See's territory under the official allegation of violation of security perimeter and industrial espionage. But I had the secure backup in the cloud, and this morning, when I showed this raw material to my bosses in Zurich, naively thinking they would report the global risk to health authorities or Interpol, they fired me. The insurance company knew. They charge the Vatican a multi-billion-dollar premium every year precisely because they know the risk exists. The Vatican pays a fortune to keep the secret, and my company profits from the silence, betting statistically that the glass will never fully break. The angel is not a divine entity. It is an apex predator of the visual food chain. The Vatican keeps it there not to worship, but to contain, or perhaps what is worse and more likely, to study how to replicate that light in a laboratory. Imagine a tactical weapon that fires a flash of light capable of killing an entire army instantly, without destroying buildings, leaving only smiling and intact corpses. It is the wet dream of any military-industrial complex. Now I'm on the road, fleeing with no certain destination, looking in the rearview mirror every minute. I no longer have a job, I no longer have a career in finance, and most likely I no longer have personal safety. But you have the truth. The Vatican is sitting on top of a biological time bomb. That lead glass cracked once due to material fatigue. Physics says it will break again. And when it breaks, the last thing we will see will be the most beautiful thing in the world. Seconds before our minds are formatted and erased forever, like a corrupted hard drive. Do not believe the Vatican's official version about private garden visits or spiritual retreats. The Pope goes down there to ensure the beast is fed and calm. I am just the accountant who saw the red numbers on the balance sheet and refused to close his eyes to the final loss. And now I ask you, in all seriousness, would you risk looking at something that promises absolute visual paradise, knowing the beauty of it would kill you the next instant? Human curiosity is our greatest biological weakness. Leave your theory in the comments about what this creature really is and where it came from. If this video is taken down, you already know the reason and who ordered it. Subscribe and activate the bell while we are still here to tell this story. And tell me, from what city or country are you watching this final alert? Comment your city. Until the next time, if there is a next time.